Hi, my name is George, and I've always tried to think the best of people. Even when I would go through hard times, I always had faith that things would work out in the end. So, when my wife Cynthia told me that she wanted a divorce, well, it truly shocked me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My wife and I met shortly after we both graduated from university. We were young and fell madly in love. After we got married, my wife became an accountant, and I pursued my passion of becoming a nurse. I know it's not the most masculine job, but I love helping people. And being a nurse has allowed me to really give people support in those moments when they need it the most. Unfortunately, my first nursing job wasn't the greatest, as I was placed with people that I didn't get along with. As the only man on staff, they always gave me the hardest patients to care for. For some reason, the other nurses all hated me. After a few months, I was beginning to feel defeated when my mother-in-law grew very ill. And my wife saw an opportunity for me to pursue my passion, while also helping out her family.
George, you hate working at the hospital. So why don't you help out my mother and be her personal nurse? I know she would appreciate having someone that she knew to take care of her, and it would put my mind at ease.
It's a good idea, and it would give me a chance to really get to know her too. And just like that, I became her full-time personal nurse. I had assumed that it would only be temporary, but in the end, I worked for her for 9 years. In that time, we became good friends. She told me so many stories about her life. In her youth, she was quite the wild one apparently, and I would have never known if I hadn't cared for her. She did pay me a little bit during that time, but I didn't mind. After all, Cynthia was making good money as an accountant, and we weren't hard up for cash. During the last 2 years, though, she did become a bit withdrawn, but I just assumed that she was depressed since she knew that she was getting to the end of her life. She had been diagnosed with a terminal illness and was in quite a bit of pain. I did my best to help lift her spirits, though, and to alleviate as much of the pain as possible. Sadly, she lived like that for way longer than any person should. When she passed, though, I hate to admit, but for me it was a mixed reaction. I felt sad, of course, and missed her dearly as I had come to view her as my own mother, but taking care of her for so many years was difficult, and I couldn't work anywhere else while I did. Not more than a week later, though, my wife approached me and gave me divorce papers. It was so out of the blue that I didn't know how to react. Over the years, our marriage had had its ups and downs, just like any other marriage, but I had always thought that we were in a good place. What is the meaning of this? Where's this coming from?
There's no easy way to say this, George, but I haven't loved you for years. And now that my mother has finally died, I don't have use for you anymore. I want you to sign these papers so that I can move on.
I didn't know what to do, so I signed the papers. Between the loss of her mother and finding out that my wife had been cheating on me was almost too much to bear. And on top of that, she was only with me so that I would take care of her mother. Once I signed the papers, I threw them back at her and then stormed out of the room and went to stay at a hotel. For weeks after her death, I spent most of my time looking for another job. But since I hadn't worked a real job in 9 years, no one seemed interested in hiring me. They just viewed me as having no experience and rejected me. Without any income, I was quickly burning through my savings and would soon be forced out on the street. I was so desperate that I started applying for jobs anywhere that was hiring and was preparing myself to work outside of my field. The thought of that depressed me even more, but I knew that I had to do whatever it took to keep going, even if it meant giving up on my passion for helping people. One day, though, I received a call that would forever change the course of my life. It was from a lawyer and he wanted to meet with me. I was both confused and terrified that my ex-wife was suing me. I mean, I had no money, but after the way that she betrayed me, I wouldn't have put it past her to do so. Trembling, I went to see him. And as I sat down across from him in his office, I saw that he was calm and had a very soothing smile on his face.
Hello, sir. I'm very sorry that it has taken me this long to inform you that your former mother-in-law wanted you to have this.
He gently slid an envelope across the desk to me. It had my name handwritten on it, which was clearly in my mother-in-law's handwriting. I was more than a little confused, and slowly I opened the envelope and read the letter inside.
Hello, George. If you are reading this, then I have passed. I have no doubt that my passing has brought a great deal of grief, but please know that I am no longer suffering and that I am in a better place. However, I do wish to ask you for your forgiveness. I learned a few years ago that my daughter has been unfaithful to you, and while it pained me to no end to keep quiet about it, there simply wasn't any alternative for me. I regret to say that I raised a terrible child, and when I found out, she threatened to fire and divorce you and to put me into the worst nursing home she could find. Essentially guaranteeing that I would pass away much sooner, she forced me to promise that I not only would keep her affair a secret, but that I would leave you out of my will. Well, the joke is on her. I had my lawyer write up 2 wills, one where she would get everything, and one where I gave you and only you everything. Unfortunately for her, I only signed the latter one, and my lawyer has assured me that it is legally binding. I prepaid him in advance so that if she has the audacity to fight the will, that he will ensure that she loses that fight and that you are rewarded properly. George, I am so sorry that I couldn't tell you this sooner, but hopefully the wealth that I leave you will help to ensure that you can live a happy and fulfilled life. I truly wish that you were my son. I love you, George, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of you.
As I finished the letter, tears welled up in my eyes. Of course I could forgive her. After all, I now knew what my ex-wife was capable of, and it irritated me that she treated her own mother worse than she had treated me. Once he saw that I had finished the letter, the lawyer then had me sign some paperwork, slowly explaining what each was for. As it turned out, my mother-in-law had been exceedingly wealthy. Her husband had been a genius when it came to finances and had invested a great deal of money for her, so that when he passed, that she would be taken care of. The investments had done so well that she had millions of dollars in her accounts, and all of that was now mine. On top of that, she owned several properties that were now transferred to me, which meant I had my pick of where I now wanted to live. I couldn't believe it. In the span of 24 hours, I went from almost being homeless to being rich. Just as my mother-in-law predicted, my ex-wife did attempt to contest the will. But my mother-in-law's attorney did just as she said he would, and he fought and won every case that my ex threw at me. In the end, she had to accept that she was getting nothing. To make matters worse, since she had committed adultery, I was awarded our house as well, leaving her forced to find somewhere else to live. It's been a few years since then, and from what I heard, the guy that she had cheated on me over the years got her pregnant and then cheated on her as well and then left her. She has tried a few times to reconnect with me, but I've blocked all her calls. There is no way that I'm going to let her back in my life after what she did to me. And as for me, one of the properties that I was left was a massive mansion that I retrofitted into a care facility. I've turned it into a non-profit hospice care facility for those people that can't afford such things. And of course I named it after my mother-in-law as a tribute to her. I used the rent money from the other properties to pay for the facility and for me to live comfortably. So in the end, I get to live out my dream of helping to make the world a better place, and it's all thanks to being kind to her. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.